All right, we'll get started here. I know we always have a few people drifting in over the next 5 minutes or so. How is everybody doing?
Very good.
Everybody
Very
getting
good.
rich? Are we getting richer? Are we getting wealthier by the minute?
Every second of every day.
As we start off with every week, anybody? Oh, hold on a second. I'm going to turn off my music here on my side. There we go. Anybody have any victories to share? Anything with your wealth building, planning strategies, all that kind of stuff? Anything to share?
Nothing major for me. I just, I mean, it's progress. Progress is progress. I realize that. So I've got about 3 leases going. 2 of them are pretty good sized leases, but you know, progress is progress.
Fantastic. Good stuff.
Thank
You know, just by being here, that you're already doing more than most people, what most people do, right? Because we're facing our, you know, our finances head on. Let me, I think we've got may have 1 or 2 people. I know we've got 1 or 2 people showing up that are going to try to show up today that are new to this group. So let me just kind of like, again, kind of re-encapsulate what this group's all about. This group is not about helping you do more real estate sales, quite the opposite. Like that's like one of the few things that we're never going to cover is how to do more real estate sales. We have many classes that are all about that. What we're talking about is, okay, you're making some money as doing real estate sales. Now, how do you take that and turn it into having wealth? How do you become wealthy from having a job as a real estate agent, right? And in one of our original classes, we talked about you know, how does Gary Keller define wealth? And that wealth is defined as having enough passive income, having enough net worth that you can generate enough passive income so that you don't have to work anymore if you don't want to. Your work now becomes a hobby where you could quit at any moment if you wanted to and still have a nice life because you have enough income coming in from passive income, right? That's a good definition of wealth. Another good one is what comes from Morgan Housel, the author of Psychology of Money, who says, being wealthy means having enough money that you can do whatever you want, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it, wherever you want to do it with, right? So all that kind of good stuff. You know, another one is, how do I put this? Go screw yourself money, right? that's one way I've heard it put, right? That's one of the things we're talking about. So we're kind of defining our life by design and we're going towards it. So in this group, this is not a class. I'm not going to be like teaching every week. This is more like we're all going to be going through this together as a process. I like to think of this as an investor study group, right? So as we go through this process, we're all going to be doing, you know, we're going to all be like reading stuff together. We're going to have challenges along the way. There's going to be a lot of, I don't want to call it homework, just more like activities. Like, hey, if you want to be wealthy, here's what wealthy people do, right? A couple of these we've come across already. Anyone what are some of the things that we've talked about already, things that we want to be doing?
You want to do your net worth?
Number one thing we want to do, first and foremost, hey, if we're talking about increasing our wealth, what we're talking about is not spending $1 million. We're talking about saving $1 million and having millions of dollars worth of assets so that we can live off of it if we want to, right? Generating passive income. So one of the first things we want to do is figure out our net worth. That is all of our assets minus all of our liabilities and figuring that out, as well as our profit and loss, our personal profit and loss, right? So how much are we spending every month? Now your business is part of that equation, but so how much are you making total as a household, right? So some of that may come from your real estate business. Some of it may come from passive income streams. Some of it may come from profit share, unique to KW. Some of it may come from your investments. Some of it may come from you know, your spouse income, right? All that stuff is different incomes. And then how much do we spend every month, right? And when you figure that out, you have an idea of your net worth, which is a snapshot of it. This is where I'm at right now. And then, and here's what's coming in and out every month. And then we're going to update that every month. Now, we're not gonna, you're not gonna be required to share that with the group. We take our privacy, you're not gonna be forced to share anything in this group that you don't want to. That's not what we're about. But we do ask that you do that every month, right? So every month you're gonna calculate what is your net worth. And if you wanna share some, lessons learned along the way so that we can all learn from each other, that's great. So anybody else, things you wanna share, happenings from the last week? No one else? No one's got nothing to share? Anybody do the net worth exercise? And again, there's a Facebook group that corresponds to this investor group here. If you want to join the Facebook group, I'll put the link up. It is, I had it up a second ago. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm also reading the Badass Money book, which she's a lovely author, and it's just by coincidence at the same time, and it really does highlight areas of my mindset. I think that's the big part of the beginning of this MREI book. In the first 5 chapters, it's all mindset, getting your mindset in the right place, and that's important for me. And a lot of it goes to childhood and weird other buried stuff. And like there's like a little monster in the corner, the flashlight spinning around. What's that in the corner? What's that assumption I'm building my everything on?
Yeah, I love that. What a great observation, David. And by the way, I love the quote that you posted in the Facebook group. I put the Facebook link in the chat bar. So if you want to join the group, just go to that link and ask to join, and I'll join you as soon as I see it. But I love what you're saying about how mindset is such a key part of this. And it reminds me of the MREA book, where they spend so much time up the first third of, like the first 1/3 of the whole book is all about mindset. And you realize after you've been in real estate for a while, it's because a lot of real estate agents know what to do, but they still don't do it. And so we got to figure out what's blocking that. And a lot of it has to do with up here, not really, not really about the actual what we're doing on a daily basis. That's a great observation. I love that. And yeah, we're still going to continue to spend some more time on mindset ongoing. Anybody else? Lessons learned, observations, progress made? By the way, just filling out the net worth sheet. So in the Facebook group under the files section, there's a great what do we call it? Net worth tracker. There's a basic version and an advanced version. So either one will work. And if you're not exactly sure what your loan payout or whatever, just take a guess. Whatever you can get it right as time goes on, but just take a crack at it. If you've done that, and I would encourage it, let me throw this out there. Who here has calculated their net worth in the last 30 days? Camilla, myself, David, you said you did that, yes?
Yes.
Anybody else? Who else we got? People who have calculated their net worth. You don't need to share the number. It's top secret, whatever.
I have a quick question for you, Ed.
Yeah.
The net worth tracker sheet, it's password protected, isn't it?
Oh, it shouldn't be. If it is, that's my mistake. I certainly did not mean it to be.
Yeah, I did try to do it, but it won't allow me to enter in figures. So it says unprotected. Okay, to make a change. I'm not sure. I'll double check, but
if you can't get it, so thank you so much for pointing that out. Now, Sharon, right? Sharon, here you go. Here's the link. Here's where that comes. Here's where that tracker comes from. There's a website called Win Make Give. It's a free resource put forth by Ben Kinney. He's one of the top KW agents, and he has a podcast called Win Make Give. We're going to be doing that whole podcast later on down the road. That net worth tracker comes from Win Make Give. It's free. I think it make you sign up or whatever, but it's free. There's no cost at all ever for joining Win Make Give. I recommend doing it anyways because by the way, I'm trying to see if I can get Ben Kinney or Chad Hyams, his sidekick, to join us 1 week. We'll see. I don't know. I have a bit of connection to those guys, so I'll see if I can leverage that. See if I can have them join us 1 week. But yeah, if you can't, if the version I posted on the Facebook site is not editable, then go to Win, Make, Give and download it from there. And that I'm sure is editable. But let me show you what it looks like and how we do it. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because we got some cool, fun stuff to do today. All right, so I'm going to do this. Okay, let me share my screen. Hold on. What's going on here? All right, 1 second here. Share my screen. Okay, here is the tracker from Win, Make, Give. This is posted on the Facebook page. Apparently, when I posted it to Facebook, it may have turned out to be password protected. I don't know. So if you can't find, if the version on Facebook doesn't work, just go straight to winmakegive.com and get it from there. There's many net worth trackers out there. You could just Google net worth tracker and I'm sure you'll get one. But this is here, right? So the way you fill it out is you just start filling this out best you can. And notice that there's 12 columns. That's because we're going to do this monthly. So in August, I started in August. Hopefully some of you guys did too. We have an August column. And then we're going to do this again in September. And the goal is, of course, over time, our net worth should be going up. And so this net worth tracker here will show your progress, right? So the first thing you want to do is just fill this out as best you can. How much do you have in all your checking accounts, right? So you have maybe 20,000, maybe less, maybe more. Hey, there is no guilt or shame here. If you are in debt, that's okay. This is a perfectly safe place to be, even if you're in debt, being in this investor group with us. There's no cash requirement to joining us, right? There may be opportunity to work together all as a group doing it like on a joint investor project down the road. I don't know. We'll see where this all goes. But for right now, like, don't worry about it. You can be severely in debt. And please, there's no better place to be if you're in debt than in this class right now, because we're going to help you get out of that, right? So you fill in this in, right? You may have some money in checking accounts. You may have some money in savings accounts, CDs, life insurance, etc. What are your investments? How much do you have in any stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff? Treasury bills, right? In IRA accounts, all that kind of stuff. Okay, now we're talking about property. How much do you own in real estate? Hopefully you've got some, maybe not. That's okay. How much are your cars worth? Don't get crazy with this, but maybe go to bluebook.com and figure in like, hey, if I traded this into a dealer today, how much would it be worth, right? Don't be Pollyanna on us and start thinking that your Toyota Tercel is worth 6 figures. It's not, right? And that's okay. That's okay. Be where you're at. Like, don't fool yourself. Just be where you're at now. It's okay. It's okay to whatever number it is, positive, negative. Maybe you're ahead of some of us in the group, and you've already got 7 figures worth of net worth. That's great. That you're welcome in this group too. It's for everybody, right? So figure out, what are your assets and then your liabilities? How much do you owe on car loans, house loans? What credit card bills do you have? Student loans, unpaid taxes, life insurance loan. How much do you owe personal loans? All that kind of stuff. Whatever it is, figure it out. And then at the bottom here, once you take your assets minus your liabilities, you're going to have a net worth. And that's your starting point. That is where you are at today. And that's what we are trying to grow. That's what this hour each week is all about, that and nothing else. It's all about increasing your net worth. Yes, we're going to be talking a lot about real estate investing. That's going to be a whole lot of this class as we go forward. But that's indirectly related to as it affects your net worth. That's what the bottom line is, if nothing else. Any questions about that?
I think this was a extremely valuable exercise for me. I've always tracked my expenses for many, many years. Just I called it a budget. I never budgeted, but I did track like my expenses. Being that I've been doing this 20 years, I always needed sort of a target in my mind of like, okay, this is basically what I have to earn, and anything above that is gravy. So that was always helpful to me. And I think this additional piece, I think for me, allows for the big picture, because ultimately my big picture is, okay, how do I phase out of having to trade my time for money, which is what I'm still doing now, even though we're all, business people, that's what we're doing. And how do I get out of that gracefully? and sooner than later. So I think when you look at it from that high perspective, you really get to see, well, what do I really need to do to get myself in a position to continue purchasing homes if you've started, or how do I do my first one if that's where you are. But I really liked it, and it digs into maybe some things I never really thought of it like that. I was sort of a little too micro about it. I was like, okay, I need to have X amount of dollars. But really a lender looks at you more like this too. So I think it's a nice, 100-foot look at your entire picture.
Yeah, that's what a great observation. I love that, Camille. Anybody else? I will tell you that I myself, over the weekend, this past weekend, I spent about 5 hours cleaning up my financial books. I was a effing mess. And so I spent a lot of time in QuickBooks, a lot of time in Quicken, just going through a lot of receipts and categorizing everything. Cause I my wife and I would go through phases where at times we're like very organized and we know where our money's going. And I'll be honest, like for the last 3 or 4 months, we've just been flying blind, which we love to do sometimes. And we know we're not spending a ton of money, but still, like it's nice to know where is all the money going and having that tabulated and figuring that all out. And like I was sharing last week, we've already identified like $300 a month worth of stuff that we can quit immediately and no one will even miss it because no one's used it. It's just wasted money that's just going towards stupid things on a monthly basis. That could go towards, that's like half a car payment right there. Well, actually a car payment if it's, a lesser car. And hell, man, that's $300 a month. That's not, you put that towards investing. That goes somewhere. That adds up. A lesson that I'm also learning with you guys going through the book together and these other things, these exercises, is that much like real estate, it's not about having some secret sauce and some secret weapon and having like, some secret, freaking Facebook, logarithm that allows you to have more Facebook leads. It's a daily habit compounded over time that produces amazing results. Very similar as with a real estate business. The same goes with investing and wealth building. It's not about like, having 1 month where you set aside a bunch of money and you buy something or some investment or something. It's about like, having the discipline on a monthly basis, a weekly basis of saving away some money, spending less than what you make, investing it wisely, and then compounding that over time, right? That's something that was my big takeaway from that video that we watched all together over the last couple of weeks. Anybody else before we jump into our topic for the day?
Yeah, Ed, I got a comment to make about the balance sheet.
Yeah, please, David.
You have to look at the net worth. That's the most important part. That's what belongs to you, actually. Everything else belongs to the third party. What you have to be focusing on is shrinking that liability section. If you are increasing your asset, but at the same time you're increasing your liability, you're not getting anywhere. So you just have to be really aware that liability section needs to be shrinking every month.
Yeah.
That's the key to becoming really financially wealthy. To decrease your liability, once you decrease your liability, your net worth automatically rises. That's the comment that I wanted to make.
David, I have a question.
Sure.
Philosophically on this.
Mhm.
So one of the strategies that you hear about, let's say in investment circles, is to take money from the equity in your house and leverage that to buy something. I just wondered your philosophical, kind of what your feelings were on that, and also Ed and whoever else has a comment, that would be great.
Okay, let me just make sure that I understand your question. You're talking about, some people are saying, take the equity out of your home and buy what?
Use it as a deposit for an investment property.
Yes and no, depending on your situation. Everything in financial, it all depends. When people ask me what I do, I always say depends. Depends on what your situation is. If you are putting yourself in a situation that you may not be able to make the next month's rent or next month's payment, that's not a good thing to do. If you read Warren Buffett's book, he has never been more than 25% leverage. That means that he doesn't go into debt unless is absolutely he's sure that he can satisfy the lien or the debt somehow. The debt needs to be taken care of somehow. The point is, yes, if you're sure that there's an opportunity that you can make money and which exceeds the expenses, the interest that you're gonna pay, and you're gonna come out whole at the end, yes. So it's not a yes and no answer to begin with. It's just.
I think my premise would be that your debt would be gone first before you made that consideration. But of course, you're taking out additional debt on your home. So assuming you don't have a whole bunch of credit card debt and, student loans.
Absolutely.
Whatever. That, like I toy with it, but I've also lived through a market crash where I thought I had everything under control and then suddenly I did not. So I guess I have that lingering sort of fear still in doing that. But I mean, that's a whole nother topic. Just curious what you guys thought.
You gotta differentiate between speculation and investing.
Well, only cash flow. Nothing, I mean, it has to be cash flow for me.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
that's-
but I've seen people that they have cash flow, but if the tenant leaves and they don't have the rent for 2 months, if they can't support it, they're gonna lose that home.
Right.
So you gotta make sure that you have enough reserve.
I
Yeah,
think
you
the
can-
reserve 6 months
At
on
least,
your income minimally, right?
at least, yeah, for
Okay.
all your expenses, including the payment for the home that you are actually leasing. So if you have that. it's
And
a
your
good
own
thing.
home.
And your own home, yes.
Yes.
The key is reserve. The key is not to be highly leveraged that you can't breathe anymore.
Yeah,
That the bank and comes, puts their finger on your throat and say, hey, you need to pay up or we're gonna take over. You don't want to be in that situation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's the situation I was in, just to chime in. And I did just what you're speaking of at the end of 2007. So I don't even know if I need to go any further with that conversation.
That timing.
Yeah, the absolute worst timing I could have ever imagined on what I thought was a fantastic idea, but didn't really have the knowledge behind me like this group is providing. It just looked like it was a great opportunity. And, I cashed out on my house and bought some properties, and then the market crashed. And so you can imagine it's, digging myself out of a hole for quite a long time. So I appreciate your comment, David, and your advice. I agree with it.
good stuff, you guys. I would add anything to that, but honestly, I thought David said it brilliantly. In fact, probably more eloquently than I would have. Okay, let's move on because I want to cover something today. So today we're going to have some fun. We're going to skip ahead a little bit and we're going to jump into how to analyze an investment. The reason why we're going to jump ahead is because I want to provide you guys with some tools so that you can start to play around with analyzing investment properties, because we're going to be doing a lot more of that down the road. So I'm going to share with you something today, and then we're going to go back next week to where we're, back in the book where we're at, and then we're going to catch up to starting to use this on it. But I just wanted to talk about this now so that you can have the tool and start to play around with it so that you're familiar with it by the time we get to it. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's a website called Keller Inc., Kellering. It is the publishing arm of Keller Williams. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's the publishing arm of Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. It's their quasi publishing company. So here's what that website looks like. And if you go here to resources and you go to, by the way, you'll notice that there's a bunch of resources for MREA, for the One Thing, and for Shift. I highly recommend playing around with it. There's some really cool stuff here that not a lot of people even know about. There's some really cool MREA stuff in here too, but that's fun for another day. Today, we're talking about MREI, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, in the book that we're reading, right? And there is, where is it at? I believe it's this one here, buy and hold worksheet. So go ahead and download that. I modified that and I posted it in the Facebook group. Let me share with you what I did, what I modified. So here's what that Excel spreadsheet looks like. And we're gonna be talking. Let me step back for a second. There are many spreadsheets like this for calculating how to analyze investments. Many. If you Google it, you'll find a ton of them. There's tons of them out there. We're gonna, just so that we all have like a common language, because we're all like Keller Williams and all that, we're gonna use this template here when we talk about investing in properties. So today we're gonna talk about how to use this, how it works, what does it mean, what do you look for, all that kind of stuff. At a high level, we're gonna talk a lot more about this down the road, but today we're just gonna dip our toe in the water and at least take a look at it. I said that I modified the one from Keller Inc. Just so you know, all that I did is I put in these two lines here for cap rate and for gross rent multiplier, because for some reason, not for some reason, in Southern California, when you're working with investors, these are very, very common terms that everyone likes to talk about a lot. Funny enough, when you read the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, they don't really cover these terms all that much. They're not really all that concerned with them. But because you may be working with investors who they're like, what's the cap rate on that? Or what's the gross rent multiplier? I just put it in here so that if you're working with investors, you can show them this and they'll have it there and they'll be like, oh, Ed knows what he's talking about because he's got cap rate in there, whatever. Okay, quick word. So this is a really cool spreadsheet and there's multiple pages to it. It goes very much in depth. It's crazy like how in depth it gets for some of these things. We're going to talk about it at a high level and how to use it. And I'll tell you, this is great. If you learn how to use it, it's great, because if you have, as a real estate agent, if you have someone who's an investor, you can do this and help them out some, and they will think that you're a genius, and it will tie them a lot more to you, because a lot of investors like working with 10 different agents, and this will help make you stickier as an agent so that your clients tend to work with you and only you, as opposed to having 10 agents that they like to work with. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. By the way, first of all, can everyone see this okay? Is this showing up all right?
Yes.
All right, awesome. First thing I'll say is if you do share this with a client, make sure to have a written record of having this conversation with them of like, hey, I'm going to share with you an investor worksheet. Please note that this is not a guarantee of how the investment's going to perform over time. It's just a spreadsheet that may help you calculate some scenarios and whatnot. Please use your own judgments in doing this, right? And there's a place here, just something like that. You want to have some disclaimer on here because you don't want to get caught promising them that an investment was going to do wonderfully and then have the market turn, because we don't know. What we're doing here is we're just taking our best guess at what's going to happen over time, right? Okay, so the fields that are highlighted contain formulas and are not to be changed, right? So all the ones that have, sorry, my voice is very scratchy today.
Quick question.
Yes, go ahead, David.
This doesn't look like a spreadsheet that's from that downloadable site. Am I
It's
crazy?
different. I just went to the site too. It looks different than that.
I know this for sure. This definitely comes from MREI, comes from Keller Inc. I know it for sure. It may be under, there's two other books called Flip and Hold. It may be under one of those, but this is the best of all the worksheets. This is by far my favorite, and this will handle multiple situations. It's the most in-depth one of all of them. There's a couple others in there, but this is by far my favorite.
Property analysis worksheet. I don't see that anywhere, but nonetheless, we'll find it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, it's definitely on the site from there. I'll see if I can, I'll poke around today and I'll see if I can locate it and I'll put it on the Facebook page on where it's at on the site. But this one here that I modified, this one's on the Facebook page and you can all download it from there if you want. Okay, so the yellow fields, these are formulas and they cannot be changed. The white ones are places where you just, what's beautiful about this is you just plug in numbers, and then as you go through the buying process, you just keep updating them with the more accurate information as you get more and more accurate information. And then from that, it will tell you how this investment is going to perform. So let's kind of go through here line by line, and I'll walk you through the first page, and then we'll take a glance at the second page, which gets really, really complicated. If you like numbers, you are just going to love today, because there's a lot of numbers we're going to talk about today. Okay, so I believe that I've got here a duplex that I calculated for an investor for a while back. And what we had here is a duplex that was listed at 725. Note that list price is doesn't matter in our formulas here. The list price can be anything. The list price could have been $1 million. It could have been 500,000. We're just putting it here so that we know what the list price was, so that when we give this to our investor, or when we're looking at it, we're reminded of what they're asking for it. What matters here is fair market value. Fair market value is, what do we think that place is worth today, right? Do we think the place is worth 800, even though it's listed at 725? Maybe it's worth 800. Maybe it's worth 600. We don't know. The fair market value is dependent on the comps, and it's dependent on how this will perform based on the financial models, right? So we want to calculate, what do we believe that property is worth? Now, here it says discount. Usually this is going to be 0, but there may be times when we can get stuff at a discount. Maybe we know something that's off market and we think it's worth 750, but someone's in a bind, they need to sell it, and we think maybe we can pick it up for 700 and get a discount of $50,000 on it because they don't have the time to put it on the market. There may be some circumstances where we can get a property at a discount over what we believe it would get on the fair market, right? So this is usually not going to exist, but let's say we can get it at a discount. That's when you would use this here. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so the purchase price, this is usually going to be the same as the fair market value of how much how much can we get it for? What is our purchase price going to be? And then here we start just plugging in numbers based on our financial situation. Typically, you're going to need to put it down at least 25% on an investment property. If you're going to be living there in one of the units, you might be able to pick it up for less down than that. But typically, it's going to be 25%, maybe even 30%. And then what is our interest rate going to be? This is between you and your lender. Varies greatly. Nowadays, I would say you're probably going to be looking at 4.25%, right? Has anybody looked? Is that accurate lately? I haven't checked in a month or two. I would
For
say,
interest rate,
yeah,
or on the investment side?
yeah.
I mean, I think it's too high.
Say 4%, 3.75. I don't know.
Yeah, I just did it and got a 3.35, but
All right. I'll tell you,
go high. I think it's better if you go high.
all right, let's do 3.5%. Let's say we can get this property at 3.5%, right? Cost of repairs. Now, this is up to you to figure out. There's no magic ball, crystal ball to tell you what this number is. This is how much you believe. Now, you make, in consultation with contractors or whatever, how much money is it going to cost you to get this place ready for market? Is it going to require some painting? Is it going to require, some heavy duty? There could be serious, this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just depends on the property and what you know, right? Let's say this place here, I calculated a 70,000. Length of mortgage, I put 30, we're gonna have it on a 30-year fixed. So here it tells you, okay, based on all that, here's what your monthly mortgage payment is gonna be. Here's your outflow, right? And now, okay, what do we know is the rental income? Sometimes if you're lucky, the listing agent may put some pro forma numbers on there, right? Good place to start as any we use those pro forma numbers on it's what they're telling us is their best guess on what it could get on the market. Now, let me ask you now, all you guys are real estate agents, right? Let me ask you guys a question. Is this always 100% accurate? Now, don't get crazy on me now.
No.
Are real estate agents always super accurate about those pro forma numbers?
No.
Right? Yeah, they can be super Pollyanna, but it's a place to start. Now we got to do our own homework and figure out what are the numbers. This one here, I calculated to be 1,600 and 1,750 for the 2 units, right? Meaning our gross rental income from the 2 units combined is 3,350 a month. Now, I put a 0% vacancy rate, but like what David was saying earlier, you do not want to get over leveraged. And sometimes you may want to put 5% vacancy rate, 10% vacancy rate, just so that you have some cushion in there. Maybe the place is going to be not rented out 1 month every year when you guys change up new tenants and stuff, right? So
Yeah, I think-
use your judgment on that, right? So 5% would probably be a good rule of thumb. It's in LA at this time, but it's up to you to figure that out, right? We'll talk
think you
a
should.
lot more about these.
I think you should have a buffer because all it takes is one bad tenant moving out to lose a month.
I think
Yep.
minimal 5% for sure.
Yep, yep. Okay, so are we gonna have a property manager? And how much is that property manager gonna charge us, right? So it might be 5%, right? Is there leasing costs on top of that, right? Are we gonna find the tenant ourselves? Now, we're lucky because we're in real estate, so we may wanna, if we're doing it for our own purpose, we could, maybe we're managing it ourselves and we got 0 here. And we're not, we're gonna find our own tenants, so we don't have any leasing costs. That's one of many, many, many advantages we have as real estate agents that makes real estate investing, we have such an advantage over your typical person. This is one of the reasons why we do, because we can find our own tenants, we can manage our own properties, and hell, we can leverage when there's repairs to be made, we can leverage our relationships with all of our vendors to help them give us a discount when we do need plumbing repairs, electrical repairs or stuff, right? I mean, there's so many advantages we have that to make this helpful to us. But anyways, figure these numbers out for yourself. I calculated these out for myself to be 0. Maintenance reserve, how much do you want to save on an annual basis for maintenance, for, to eventually fix a new leaky roof, to fix pipes, all that kind of stuff. How much, what do you want to have put away on an annual basis? Right? This might be too low here. Maybe we say 2,000. Utilities, are we, is there common area where we're going to be on the hook to cover some utilities? If the place is vacant, are we going to have to pay some electrical bills to keep, the refrigerator going while there's no tenant in the place? How does that all going to work, right? Property taxes, figure that out. What is our property tax going to be on this property? Insurance, get some quotes, find some insurance agents out there who wouldn't mind giving you a bunch of quotes on different investment properties. And then
Is there a formula under property tax already?
No, this is, it's left, it's left blank for us to figure out.
Oh,
Usually-
you figure you put in the total.
Now, we know here in California, it's 1% of the most recent sale. However, usually there's some additional stuff on top of that. So it's more like 1.25%, 1.5%, right? So I put it as 1% of the purchase price here, but there may be some additional stuff. And that's, again, this is stuff that during our we want to try to figure this all out as much as possible upfront before we're even writing the offer. A lot of times you don't have that you don't have that time. So you got to write it up and then figure it out when you're in the due diligence period of like, okay, I got to figure out all these numbers and make sure that they're rock solid, especially if it's if it's for yourself, you got to do it. And especially if it's for an investor client, because they're, you want to help them double check their numbers, because if it's a bad investment, they're going to look to you and blame it all on you, even if you talk, so just make sure you do this as best you can. But in the end, this property here, if all these numbers end up being correct, it tells us that our total expenses are $10,500 for the year. Our net operating income is an income each year of $29,700, but that's before our mortgage payment. So once we pay out the $28,289 towards the mortgage, that means we're going to have a $1,400 income on this property from year 1, right? So the good news is, yay, celebrate. This property here, based on our calculations, is going to be cash flow positive from year 1. And that's one thing that I know I always want to have in any investment I make. I want it to be cash flow positive from year 1. Even if I had sitting on a wad of cash and I know that I could make the payments for the next 20 years if I needed to subsidize it. It's just not fun to have an investment where you're paying it the first couple years or two. And it's not good. The more I've learned, the more like you don't want to be doing that anyways, right? So if it's not cash flow positive, you probably don't want to make it. I've seen people do it. I've seen people invest in it where they're like, they know that the first year or two that they're going to be cash flow negative. I discourage them from doing that. And I want to point it out repeatedly. Or like, are you sure you're not going to get tired of making a $500 payment? And that's not, we're not even talking about, unexpected expenses. Are you sure you're going to be okay with that? Oh yeah, I'm fine with it. Okay. Just, here's a disclosure, sign this off and saying that you're not going to come back to me complaining that, should something go wrong. You just want to definitely, do some CYA on there. Yeah. Any questions about that? Okay, because here's where everybody kind of follows this along, I'm pretty sure. But here's where things get really interesting. There's some assumptions here. And this is very dangerous because these are assumptions. The appreciation rate historically over the last 20 years has been 4.4%. That's fairly accurate over a 20-year period. However, can we guarantee that the appreciation rate for 2022 is going to be 4.4%? No, we have no idea. In fact, I can promise you this, it will almost assuredly not be 4.4%. Probably be above that, but it might not, it might be below that. I don't know. But you want to go into this knowing that whatever happens, that you can ride it out because you're getting enough income from this so that you don't have to worry about it, right? If the place goes down 5%, 10% in value one year, namely like right after you buy it, like say you're like Tracy and unfortunately bought it in 2006. If this was all cash flow positive and you had enough prudent reserve, you're not worried about it. You just ride it out. You're like, oh, well, sucks to be me because the place went down in value. But as long as I hold on to it for another 10 years or so, whatever, I'll ride it out and I'll be just fine. Right. So that's hopefully how you look at it. So this is kind of dangerous when you look at these appreciation rates, but it gives you an idea of typically how would this investment vehicle here perform over time? Typically, right? The rent appreciation over the last 20 years, they give you a benchmark here. Typically, rents go up 3.1% year over year. Again, we can't guarantee that. They could go down next year, but over time, generally, we know that over time, generally, they're going to go up about 3% a year, we hope. And then the cost to sell the property, by the way, as real estate agents, we have a huge advantage. Eventually, when we go to sell this property, how much is it going to cost us to sell it? Very little, right? We're not going to be paying 7% to sell this property. We might pay 2.5% to a buyer's agent. We may not even need to do that. We may be able to just list it off market and find a buyer for it.
Ed?
Even if we need a buyer's agent, we're probably looking at 3%, something like that, because maybe spend 0.5% on marketing for yourself and the rest you just goes into the buyer's agent, right?
I thought the brokers don't like it when an agent sells their own property.
It's a conversation for you to have with your broker at your office. I know we allow it. We ask you to please be careful with it, but please talk to your broker because we have multiple offices here and it just depends on which office you're at and what they're saying. Yeah. Okay. So once we know these assumptions, all right, now hold on. There's gonna be a lot of numbers. Don't freak out, but there's a lot of numbers here. Okay, so let me tell you what this all means. So each one of these is a different year. This is year one of the investment. Year two, year 3, year 4, you got it? And this is so let's kind of read along how this all works. We got, first of the year, the gross rents, remember, this is hopefully gonna go up with inflation over time. So how much are we gonna make every year from rents? We, assume. The rent appreciation rate, remember we talked about that. Vacancy, these are all taken from the first page. The net rental income annual, right? Annual expenses adjusted for inflation. Remember, that's from the first page. This is also going to go up over time. Net operating income. Debt pay down, how much principal are we paying every year? Accumulated debt pay down, how, like after year 5, how much debt have we paid off of that money we owe? So in addition to the rents coming in, we've also paid off $66,000 from that mortgage payment, from that mortgage. The interest paid, how much do we pay over all this time? Annual net cash flow. There we go. Now we're talking. What is our cash flow, right? This is what's, and notice something here. What happens to the cash flow typically over time? Now, again, we could have an off year where it goes down, and that could happen in year 1, but typically what happens over time?
Continues to improve steadily.
Right? There you go. So over time, our cash flow should improve year over year. The property value is also obviously going to increase. Now, like David was pointing out earlier, you got to be careful. You know, you don't want to bet the bank on, you know, buying an investment just solely based on assuming that it's going to go up 10% a year or whatever crazy number, right? And especially people in the South Bay, based on the recent years, people are like buying these investments, assuming it's going to go up 10% a year. I think that is just bonkers, man. Like that is, I know one thing is that this stuff tends to even out over time. And we've had a great run over the past 4 or 5 years. Count your lucky stars if you've owned a property. But I would be shocked if we continue to go up at 10% a year over the next 5 or 10 years, as we have been blessed with over the last 5 years. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, the annual appreciation. This also goes up over time. The accumulated appreciation, right? I mean, look at some of these numbers, what it does over a 30-year period, right? The property value, this is where that's all coming from. Cost of sale, remember, if it's a percentage of the price, that's also going to go up. Equity, how much equity do we have in the property? The accumulated cash flow, like if we add up the cash flow over the years, what is the total cash flow? Total cash in, this should remain constant. You shouldn't be having to replenish it, right? If we've done our calculations correctly, you should have enough coming in to cover expenses. You shouldn't having to be forking money into this every year. The annual total return. Now, total ROI percentage. Now, this is, okay, so annual total return. This is before we take in cost of sale. This is what that return would look like. The total ROI annual. Now, this is where we start. This is a true measure of the overall performance of that vehicle, everything considered, year over year. The first year, if you took everything into consideration, that property is producing an ROI of 17%. 17% year 1, generally. I want everyone to like think about that for a minute. Like, where else can you put money where you're pretty much, it's a fairly safe, you know, takeaway that you're going to be getting 17% from year 1. I mean, that's insane, and that just goes up over time. How a lot of investors love savvy investors that I've run across, and this book is one that teaches this. This is where you really want to. These columns here are the ones where you really want to spend the most amount of time. Cash on cash. Based on, this is the first one. This means I'm like, okay, let's go back to the first page to figure out what the hell this means. My down payment is $175,000. That is how much money I am putting into this investment. I am getting back, my net cash flow for the year is $1,400. That is 1%. So my cash on cash, I put in whatever, what I say was $170,000. I get back $1,400. I'm only getting back about 1% interest on my investment as far as cash goes. Now, over the time, that gets better, which is why when you look at this, okay, so let me skip ahead. So cash on cash, right? This is talking about how much cash am I putting in? How much cash do I get back each year as a result? So a couple takeaways from this, right? And then here, anyway, let me get the bottom line first. This here is what is our total ROI accumulated, right? The total accumulated total return after cost of sales. This is the total bottom line, right? And take a look at this. Even if everything goes perfectly well in a perfect year and the place appreciates at 3.6% or 4.4%, rents go up 3.6%. Even if everything went brilliantly, if we sold this property after year one, our total ROI after cost of sales, we would have lost $9,000. So what does it say? You probably do not want to buy a real estate investment if you're going to need to sell it anytime soon. And even and these first 5 years are so influenced by the appreciation rate on any given year. So, you know, I would not buy an investment unless you're looking to flip it. And flipping is a whole nother separate beast. Well, that's fun for another day. If you're looking to buy a property and hold on to it, don't do it unless you're pretty damn sure you can hold it for at least 5 years, covering any costs associated with it, right? So if you know you can hold a property 5, especially 10 years, and you know that you can make the payments on it, and as long as you've got a renter in there, most of the time you're going to be fine, then you should be fine. But if you know, like, oh my God, heaven forbid I have to sell this property, you know, I don't, if something doesn't go right, I'm going to have to sell it after just a couple of years, like, then you probably should not be buying it, right?
So quick question, Ed, on that. So you're taking your yearly gross, what was that? 3,000 something?
Mm-hmm.
So 3,000, let's say it was 3,000. I don't remember the exact number. And then you're dividing that by 175,000, essentially. To get
So
that
yeah,
number.
so it should be 70,000.
Well, 1410 is what.
So here are the numbers here, right? So that's the net cash, I believe that's calculated by, well, it tells you the formula here. So cash on cash is K4 divided by T4. It is
K4.
K4 on this page. It is annual net cash flow of 1410 divided by, what do we say, G4, which is the net operating income. So it's this number here, 1410 divided by our net operating, no, our cash on cash. Oh, divided by, the total cash in, the 245,000. Oh, you know why? Because we spent 70,000, the down payment was 175 plus the cost of repairs is 70,000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So where is that? It was 245. Where is that? Oh, down here, total cash in.
Yeah,
So it's the 1410 divided by the 245, which, well, that's not 1% even.
yeah, they round up, right? So I know that.
It's like it's 0.05%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know this, all right. Any questions off? I know this was a lot and it's probably not the funnest conversation to have, right? Any questions on using that? I just wanted to present it to you guys so you can start to play around with it. Maybe we've run out of time, so I don't have time to go through an example. Maybe next week we'll start with an example property to kind of, we'll go with a real life example. We'll take something out of the MLS today and we'll see, like, is this a good investment or not? Much like Jay Papazan was saying on the video we watched, we want to start to do these a lot. Like you want to start to be able to do these, like, 5 or 10 of them a week, or at least one a week, right? So that, and we'll all share them together and we'll start to do some fun stuff where we pick investments from all around the country, and just to have an idea of like what the hell is out there and how do they compare against each other? Why would someone invest in Manhattan Beach versus Lawndale, or Lawndale versus Culver City, or Culver City versus Las Vegas? These are all super awesome things for us to be talking about and learning together, right? So we're gonna have fun doing that kind of stuff. Any questions on that?
No, this is a cool exercise and I've done it before. I bought a rental property at the top of the market in 2006. So for the next 5 years, I'm like, I'm such a dummy. But actually, the next 7 years after that, it all evened out exactly what we thought at the very beginning, and it turned out to be very profitable. But so we might have a stagnant market or a dip for 5 years, but you just gotta hang in there.
Yeah, that's a great, I love it. It's a great point. Another thing we'll talk about along to David's line earlier, David Asamanfar's, what he said earlier is that because of this, as you pay off your investment property and you tend to owe, like say you owe it free and clear, there may be circumstances, if you have the cash, where you may want to refinance it, take 50% out of there, and then reinvest that to leverage again to buy more property. Be very careful doing that, but there are circumstances, if you leverage properly, that you can do that, and there's times to do that. But we're going to talk, that's going to be covered a lot later on in the book. These questions you've got, we're going to cover these in depth as we go through this book and over time. But I just wanted to give you guys like at least a first look at it, because I just like you guys to start playing around with it, because we'll talk a lot more about it as time goes on. I saw somebody else had a hand up, but I've only got one more minute here. Was there a quick question you got?
Yeah, it was me. Hi, Ed. How you doing?
I'm well. Hey,
I just added your Facebook group, so I wanted to make sure you know. I just added the,
oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Uh-huh.
I'm so glad you joined us. What's your question?
Oh no, I just want to make sure you accept it.
Oh, yes, yes.
I just because I remember last time that's what you were doing, but I wasn't ready. Now I just did it.
I see I've got a couple new ones in there, and I just approved them both.
Thank you.
Welcome. I hope I see you guys all again here next Thursday. I've got to run because I've got a 4 o'clock, but this was super cool. I know today was like not the funnest day and really heavy on numbers and stuff, but this is a good foundational piece that will serve us well over time. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there unless anyone has any last comments or questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Good stuff, you guys.
Thank you.
I will see you all next week, next Thursday at 3 o'clock. We'll meet again.
Awesome. See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.